Excellent. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Luca. I feel like that's going to be being shouted from a stage sometime in the near future. So I'm blessed with having the opportunity to say it from this chat today. I thank everybody who is joining us live and any folks that are watching this after the conversation. I do want to note that there seems to be, and it could be on my side or Luca's side, a little delay. So if we are cutting each other off, it is not intentional. It is just the delays of technology. I promise that we highly respect everything that the other has to say. And I'm excited about this conversation because I don't talk a lot about music as much as I would like to on these chats. And music is very, very special to me. I have a relationship with my guitar that is behind me. And for my whole life, I've always kind of been the person that would listen to things across the musical grid because I just think it's incredible to listen to different voices and the way different instruments interact with each other. So I'm excited to talk to you about how that's unfolded for you. Before we dig into that, I would like you to introduce yourself to everybody and tell them about what you do.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you about music as well. I've often seen that guitar in the background and wondered, I wonder if Deb plays and like what her background is with music. And we've just never gotten around to talking about it. So it'll be great to actually have that opportunity today. But yes, my name is Luca Diadul. Um, I am an independent artist. I create music for those in pain to find peace through love. This style is reminiscent of a little bit of Hosier. There are some subtle Billie Eilish influences. Sufjan Stevens, if you know who that is someone I often get compared to. But yeah, it's delicate acoustic guitars and I like it, but obviously I'm the one making it. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's ballads for life, right? Like even though some of your songs are, you can tell it's a song about a relationship either that could be, that was, that is currently, but it's about life. Like it's like love songs for life. Like you're in love with life and the experience of the emotion, like you said, to pain to find peace, but it's also to experience that pain, which I mean, I think about when we start developing our initial attraction to music in a passionate way, as opposed to when we're little kids and we just really like it because it's fun. We start to
yeah,
develop that emotional sense. And like you're sad, you come home from school and you put on a sad song, which seems contradictory, but it's not because it's that catharsis. It's like, let me get this emotion out. And music helps us to do that. So your songs to
it's
me are about that, the ballad of connecting with your emotions.
right. It's that release, and I think like that I really like to emphasize in my music that it's the pain is there, but it's about like finding peace with the about forgetting about the pain or losing the pain. It's like because I don't think pain ever really goes like there's always like a little bit that's there. It's come to terms with like what happened that has caused you this pain, and for me it's finding that ease, that peace, that calm, and that's what I try to inject into my music. um, just those easy calm, the calmness, the tranquility. That's what I create, and that you say it's about life. I'm really glad that it connects with you in that way. That's a beautiful way to put it, so thank you.
Yeah, so you mentioned my guitar and I'll give you like the kind of condensed version. I'd always wanted to learn how to play the guitar and I was going through a really difficult period in my life. I had just it was at the end of a marriage and I just felt like I need to play the guitar. Like it was like, okay, I really want to do this. And it wasn't okay, something's ending in my life so I need to start something new. It was this awareness of attachment to emotions and this feeling and that somehow this guitar playing was going to help me with that. And it did. And I've shared this before on one of my conversations, but actually, the day that I got my guitar, I had it in bed with me. I kept it in bed with me that night. It just laid on that side of the bed. And it was not like it when you say it out loud, I'm kind of like, oh, I sound like crazy lady that like sleeps with her guitar. But for me, it was very symbolic of like my life goes on, right? Our journeys continue, and everything that we have gone through before feeds into that. And when you are playing your guitar, and often you close your eyes, and I can tell that you have lost yourself into that song. You are connected to the audience too, but you're very much allowing that music to come through you and allow people to hear it. So they're not just really just hearing you, they're hearing whatever the message is that's in that song or in the melody. Because even, no lyrics, you can experience emotion and feeling. And so when I sometimes will sit and play my guitar, I will play chords that don't even exist, and they're maybe dissonant, but it's just the art of like allowing myself to kind of feel in that moment, which you very clearly do. And I think it's interesting that while many people can feel it listening to it, not everybody always wants to kind of be able to do that and kind of feel into the guitar. And I'm kind of curious for you, guitar, just singing in general, what was that like for you? I mean, I imagine, like in my mind, I've got this vision of Luca as a relatively young child already having found that, because this doesn't seem new. It seems like you were born ready to sing. Like, what did the discovery of that ability and love for that look like?
Sure. Um, that's a very interesting question. It's like almost a side of music that I've never thought about really is being so engrossed in the song. And it is something I do try to emphasize, right? It's like music is about that pure expression of 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 an emotion, right? I think like there's a really interesting linguistics debate around like language, and like is language like inherent to human beings, or is it something learned? Or um, I'm probably doing a very bad job of
Mm.
explaining it, but it's like, can language capture everything that um, you want to express as a human being? And I think to me, the easy answer is no, because music can capture emotions and expressions and concepts in a way that language cannot. And you can communicate through music in a way that you cannot through language. Um, and I think that pure expression of the self, and of your ideas, your emotions, is really what makes music great. Was it always intrinsic to me? I mean, I don't think necessarily. I think that like singing was always intrinsic to me, but I don't think, and I think like understanding that music comes from a place that cannot necessarily be uh, vocalized in a linguistic capacity. I think that has always kind of
Mm.
made sense to me. I played classical piano growing up, much to my displeasure. But I really did not like to practice, but my parents made me, and I am extremely grateful for them to doing that. Um, but there was always, my old teachers would say, and my parents would say, and other people would watch me would say that there is like, when I would perform on stage, at the little children concerts, there was a level of musicality and being in the music that was present with me that was not necessarily present with other piano players, even if they were playing more complicated songs, playing more difficult songs. And so I think it helps. I think it's part of just who I am, right? It's that creativity mindset. It's being a more creative person, a more emotional, a more feeling person. Um, and then just choosing to express it fully. I mean that's something that I really had to learn to do too. I think is when you create the song. I think at least from my perspective, when you create the song, it is so easy to just step fully into that emotion and be in that emotion, and and nothing else matters. But I think it is then a skill to be able to do it again and again and again and again. um, and it's a skill that I still think I have like a very long way to go with. Like, I do not think I am by any means close to being the best that I can be at conveying the message and the emotion of the song through my vocal performance. um, but it's something that I think is present in every great artist, is an ability to communicate the message in such a powerful way. Um, so yeah, where
Yeah.
can I
Yeah, and it struck me as you were talking, because I do tend to lean in just when you're talking in general. You have the tone of your voice, I guess would be the right word, like the tone of your voice, the way you almost are singing when you talk, right? Like you have a very cool way of making words have meaning before you've even finished the word, if that makes sense. And so like I think like even in your presence, when you walk up to me and you say hi, like there's a lot that's in your hi. And that's the musician in you, right? Like you're talking about speaking in words. Like you can walk up to somebody and say hi, and in that hi I'm like, Luca sees me, he's glad to see me, and he's very present in this moment, eager to hear what I have to share and eager to share what's going on with him. And that all gets encapsulated in that hi. It probably also is encapsulated in that I know your heart. I'm sure that that influences it. But I
Thank
do
you.
think there's a lot in the way you lean into your conversations. You're very tall. So sometimes, like, people that are very tall can come across as imposing just in physical stature. And that's not, right?
Mhm.
You're large in that there's a lot of love surrounding you, but you bring yourself to where the person is. And I think that that's also present in your pictures, right? You're very photographic. And when you were talking just then about how you are present in the moment, in the emotion of your music, I think that's why you're so photographic, because you're very good to lean into the emotion of it, right? That's usually
Right.
what we have an awkward time with. Regardless of whether you've been in front of a camera or not, what makes us uncomfortable is like, well, how should I stand? Or how, if you just feel, right? Like that's why we
Yeah.
like candid pictures so awesome, because you're like capturing emotion. You're
Yeah.
able to capture emotion, right? In that. So I think that that's really a cool concept. You mentioned the piano, and I think it's fairly common. I don't know that this is every musician, but it's fairly common that a lot of people have some type of piano background. And it's interesting because as an instrument, it's the only instrument where you can see all the notes, right?
Right.
Every other instrument, you've got to do things with, but you can see all the notes. And so I think there is something to that in a foundational way, just being able
Yeah.
to visibly see them. My mom was a pianist, and I wish that I had allowed her to teach me more. I didn't go, I can like do some simple little things. Like, I think there's a song everybody learns, like, Here We Go in a Row to a Birthday Party. I don't know if that's still taught, but that was like
Doesn't
it was
one's
like the three finger song. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There are a bunch of
So
melodies.
yeah, I still remember how to know the notes and all that, and that definitely gave me a music background, and I think that that carries through. But I think it's interesting what you said, that being a musician and having a love for music and having a gift for music doesn't always mean that it's going to be easy and natural, right? Like, and as a kid, even though you maybe wanted to go in your room and play your music and you loved music, it didn't mean that you loved practicing the piano, but that has helped to feed your creativity in so many ways. What do you think from your past has been one of the things, and I'm sure there's many, that has most influenced your style of music? I know you mentioned those artists, but
Mhm.
you had an affinity with that type of music. What do you think has driven that specific interest or that musical flavor?
I think it's been I think it's been my failures, to be quite honest. It's I essentially failed out of college. I didn't exactly fail out of college because they would have, well, I could have gone again, but it just wasn't working for me. So I left, I went a different way. Um, I have lost friends, I have lost lovers,
Mm,
it's these moments of feeling vulnerable and feeling, sad, that I think are the moments that I connect with. And I think part of that is who I am, and part of that is the experiences that I've had. Um, but I think, yeah, there was years like 22 to 24 were pretty rough for me, just because I really felt very lost in my life. I didn't really know what I was doing. One of my best friends and I sort of had a falling out. So someone who I would normally sort of go to discuss a lot of these things, um, was no longer around for me. I was living in New York City, and I had started writing marketing content, sort of freelance for different small businesses. And so I was in my apartment all day. I was alone most of the time. I would not see a lot of people, and just sort of this general kind of not being in a great place and feeling pretty sad about it. And I think that those moments have allowed me to really connect with myself and my vulnerability, and the sadness and the pain that comes with life. um, and I think you know, music is therapeutic, right? It's listening to those songs that are that channel a similar energy, are what allowed me to, you know, feel okay with my entire life. And music was always my outlet. You know,
Mm,
I was always able to sing, even if it was just in the shower. Even if I wasn't doing anything with it, there was always music there for me. Um, but I think, yeah, you know, I mean, I probably would have made sad music anyway, even if I had like a very happy,
yeah.
you know, college career. But it's just, I think it's also my voice and my style is suited to it, and I think that
Yeah.
that's just something that that comes with learning the voice and playing the music and seeing like what am I really good at, because I was not one of those child singer prodigies. Like I was like there, you know, you see videos of like Justin Bieber and like Beyonce and like all these crazy like 11-year-olds belting their faces off. That was not me. I was not, I mean, I always sang
Right.
and I always had a pretty good voice, but it was not, it was very different from how I sing today. Um, and I think it just took time to write songs um, and to sing and like find the strengths of my voice. And then, you know, there was just an inherent calmness and subtle, you know, subtle sadness to kind of the way I sang, and it fit with, you know, my emotions and what I was feeling, and here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, I mean, and when I listen to like carefully listen to your lyrics and how they unfold and how like and I don't know if the process is the same for you, but like I've written songs, but most of my songs have a very simple chord line, like I haven't written
Sure,
orchestration, but
sure.
even just the act of writing a poem. So sometimes like it's the initial like I have an idea, but I find while I'm writing like I'm experiencing it. I could write a poem about something that's related to an emotion I felt a couple years ago, and the catch line, all of a sudden comes to me, and then I start writing, and like I'm living the emotion through it. And so you start to feel the feelings with them, and like a lot of the ebb and flow of your songs, like it's not like they're like you mentioned sad, and sometimes the music itself, right, the tone of the music, the notes that are chosen create that sad effect. But if you listen to the words, there's joy, right? You could be saying something that's really sad, but it's almost like I'm celebrating that my heart broke because I felt, and
Right.
because I loved, because I saw that, because I'm going to be part of that person's life, because I'm going to have words now that are going to help somebody else.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that like I'm passionate about with my poetry. We can reach people by just speaking, but there's something about things that have that rhythm to them that allows us to kind of catch and lean into, so we hear the words a little bit differently. And so some of the poetry that I think is actually very hope filled was written during some of the darkest periods of my life. Like I
Sure.
was feeling completely wiped out, exhausted, depressed, and was writing these words about, the light and being peace and hope and all these different things. So I think like all the emotions get pretty tightly balled up together when we think about it. And they're all part of that. Do
Yeah.
you, when you're in on, oh, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No. I actually am forgetting what I was gonna say. So whatever.
That's okay. I
Um,
got a questions. Oh, go ahead.
ask your question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and feel free to interject with something a different tangent if something I
For
say
sure.
strikes you and you want to do it. But I was thinking about the audience experience, right? So
Mhm.
there's the musicality portion of it. There's developing the notes and putting everything together, and you've done obviously a remarkable job of that. But then there's also stage presence and what makes somebody want to hear you live, as opposed to just saying like, okay, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna pick up his thing online here. Um, and I noticed from watching your videos and stuff, I mean, the audience is there. They're very present with you. They're picking up what you're putting down, right? They're ready to go
Right.
through that emotional journey with you.
Sure.
What is that like for you in terms of do you feel like you kind of just lose yourself in the song and then let the audience take it where they will? Do you feed off the audience? How does that flow for you?
Yeah. Um, I like to be in the moment. And I also like to make jokes, actually. It was something I was really unsure about for a while because I would, I sing all these sad songs and about emotional complexities, and then I come back and I make a joke and everyone's laughing, and I'm like, is this like it's like this cognitive dissonance, like a roller coaster. But I think as I've done it more, like people and learn more, it works because sometimes you need the levity in between the heavier songs. I played like a set the week of Valentine's Day, and I was just like, in honor of Valentine's Day, I'm gonna hit you with all of the saddest songs I've ever written. So so and it was just back to back to back to back, and they were like, people were like, yeah, we like needed those jokes in there because like we're just depressed otherwise, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's fair. um but I think for it's practice, and it's just I think different people do it in different ways, but for me it was just realizing that whenever I like sort of thought about what I was going to say before I said it, it didn't resonate with anybody. Like the joke
Mm,
flopped, like the stories were not that great. Like all the most meaningful moments that I've had connecting with an audience have come when I am in the moment, reacting to what they're saying, what they're doing, expressing just how I am feeling about the song in the moment. Even an interview like this, I would not check the one of the first interviews I ever did with anybody. I like listened to a previous podcast episode of theirs with another artist just to sort of prepare myself for it, and like I was like felt so ready for everything that it was like felt inauthentic to me, and I felt like I
mm,
didn't do a good job. So of course I have seen your chats and listened to them before, but I
I know what
didn't
you
do
mean.
like the research part of it necessarily to like prepare myself, because it's just so much more organic and natural, whether you're on stage, whether you're in an interview, wherever you are, just to be yourself and express yourself. And I think just to find the comfort in that, you just have to do it. You just have to
Yeah.
practice and practice and practice. And for me, it was going to open mics like 2 to 4 times a week for a year. And now I have run out of energy to do that. But so it was going on stage, and it was playing, and it was putting myself in positions where I am in front of people. And it just the
Right.
more I did that, the more comfortable I felt on stage, the more comfortable I felt just making jokes off the cuff and being myself and just talking. Um, and I think like, yeah, when you talk with the songs, you engage the audience, because a lot of
Right.
times when you're listening to live music, it's very easy to kind of tune it out because you don't know the songs, you don't know the lyrics. You can pick up on some of it, and you can appreciate the quality, but it's not necessarily capturing your attention. But if somebody is talking to you, you're capturing their attention, or they're capturing your attention, excuse me, because they're listening to you. You are now engaged in a conversation between two people, like we are right now, as you would be on the
Right.
street with your friend. And we are so much more used to focusing on someone who is talking to us than focusing on someone who is singing to us. So I think it's really important
Mm,
to incorporate that into the set, because it keeps the attention, right? It makes the songs
right.
better for having that connection be built up between the audience and the performer. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, people feel it. I think there's people will go to your show if they just like your music, but in general, people want to be like you just said. They want to form that connection. Similarly to you, like I've always been like I don't want to say an okay singer. Like it's hard to assess, right? I mean, different people like different
yeah,
things. But to you, like I wasn't necessarily the voice that people was going to hear and be like, oh my gosh, that's going to be the next chart topper. But when I play my guitar and I sing for people, they're often like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. And it's not my voice that I think they're referring to. I think they're referring to
mhm,
the experience of it because, like
exactly.
you, it's connection. And especially when you know somebody, right? When you know somebody's heart and you know that what their desires are, and then you see them sharing that experience with you. And I think you telling those jokes is a way of giving the audience Luca. not just
Yeah.
Luca the singer, but Luca, like, here I am. And I mean, I think about like ancient Greece. Like, I used to teach English, right? I used to teach high school English. And there's the whole concept of like, sadness is the easiest emotion for us to feel. It's the easiest emotion to kind of present because, like, you start the tune. It's hard to make people laugh, right? That like you
Mhm.
said, a joke can flop. So when you're giving the audience both the humor and the sadness, you're also allowing both of those feelings to be experienced even more fully, right? Like the juxtaposition of them. So you can feel sadness more fully, you can feel joy more fully because they're up against each other, and that allows that connection with you. And I think that's kind of like what that's really what you're like, even just in general in person. Like what my experience with you in person has been like, you'll be very, your humor will come in very subtly, but all of a sudden you find you're smiling and you're chuckling, and it's like, oh, I didn't even notice that we had transitioned into that, right? So that's what you're doing. You're bringing your real self. What was that?
Very on brand. It's very that that's just my humor, and I think it's about it connects to something you were talking about earlier, which is that it's like the music is about life and living, and previously you were mentioning that the songs are sad, but it's about being thankful for the sadness and thankful for the pain that it happened. It's the same thing, humor and sadness. There are two sides of living life. I mean, I think like when I think of artistically capturing life, I think of Hamilton, that the
Oh,
phenomenal Broadway musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda, because that musical captures so much of life in 3 hours. um, and yeah, it's really is just living. That's really what I try to embody is living life and capturing that humor and having that sadness, and yeah, the juxtaposition does, I think, make it feel more impactful. There's this duality to it, that a theme that comes through in some of my music and some of my songs,
yeah.
and yeah, but it's I just think it's like, life is about living, right? And I think like so much of when I was
Yes.
struggling in my life, I was struggling because I wasn't living. Like I was holed up in my room and I didn't know what to do, so I didn't do anything. And the moment that I was like I'm done with this, like, and started just doing something, like whatever it was the moment that like everything started to change for me. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like those experiences will be bad. You will have bad experiences through living your life, and you will have great experiences, and you will have terrible, awful experiences. But all of those experiences are what make life worth happening. And all of those experiences are, part of what makes you who you are as a person and allows you to step forward and truly learn to enjoy life in the way that you want to and you get to enjoy life. Um, and so I think that learning and that what I've learned from just living is
Yeah.
has always been an important part of my songs. So
Yeah, I mean, really, really well said. A poem almost all in itself, everything that you just said about the emotions. And I think the more we accept all of our emotions, the more we're able to really fully love ourselves, because we're going to experience anger and sadness and fear. And actually, I was writing the summary thing for my poetry book last night, and I was trying to think like, oh, how do I say this? Like, how do I say what I'm trying to say? And that's what I ended up coming down to. Like, all of those emotions are part of it. So to what you just said, like, in order to really start living fully and completely, you need to acknowledge those emotions. And I think because sometimes we have a negative connotation about, like, specifically anger, right? Most people, we're a little bit more welcoming to sadness, but anger is the one that it's just like, you gotta knock that off, right?
yeah,
But anger's an emotion, and it's real, and it does have its place. What you choose to do with it when you feel it sometimes isn't always the best thing, right? You definitely have to
right,
make some wise choices, but it's all part of the incredible network of who we are and how we see things and how we interpret things, and how, when we're watching something like as simple as the way two animals are interacting in the backyard, right? We're
right.
feeling our emotions and we're thinking like, oh, what must they be feeling, and what is that experience like? We have to be able to be in touch with all of the parts of ourselves, even those that we may have in the past or present be a little bit uncomfortable with, in order to to feel that. So I see that and I feel that, and I think that you can definitely tell that that's feeding all of your writing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's life, you know? Like what better subject matter is there than life? In my opinion, nothing. So
Yeah. I there's a story I tell, and it's funny that this is the I would not have pictured this specific story coming up in this conversation, but when my mom was she was passing, and actually yesterday was 7 years, so maybe it's fitting. It was St. Patrick's Day, and I was visiting with her, and there had been some confusion with the doctors. I'm going to really kind of condense it to get to the core of the story. So, like, a doctor had come in to tell her that there was nothing else they could do, but then another doctor or a nurse came in to say, "Oh, there's a procedure we want to consider," but they had come in out of order. So, like, the nurse came in not realizing that the doctor had actually looked and realized, no, we can't do that. So he was coming in to tell her there's nothing else we can do. Then the nurse came in to say, like, oh wait, there's a procedure. Then the doctor had to come back and say that was wrong, that person wasn't supposed to come in. So
right.
for ways to find out you're like really near the end, it was not that it can ever be pretty, but it was like this roller coaster all within a, I don't know, 20-minute period.
Absolutely.
And we knew that the battle had been long and she had really been through a lot, and that, the chances of being able to pull through it physically were pretty slim. But I happened to be there when this person had to come in, and my dad was there, so I stepped out into the hallway just because I didn't know if they wanted to, have that moment with the doctor. But I could hear the whole conversation, and I hear the doctor saying, like, there's nothing else here. We're going to need to get you set up on hospice. And so up to that point, because of my mom's illness, she wasn't able to eat food. And she would get like these big pills, and that was the only thing she was allowed to swallow. Was she'd get water in this gigantic pill that, I mean, it was really grossly big. So she had been trying to take this pill before I had left the room, and saying how, like, it's just ridiculous and it's such an irony that I can't eat, but I have to take this ridiculous big pill. So I come back in after the doctor has just said this, and I'm thinking, like, what are my words to my mom going to be right now? When I've just heard this, like, the end is close. We're talking days, right? And she looks at me and she says, well, they can keep their fat pill. And I thought, like, that was very profound to me. What she was doing in that moment, she could not control the amount of life that she had left, but she can control how much she was going to live in the life that she had left. And while it seems like such a small thing for her to make that comment, she was saying, like, you know what? I'm not going to take this pill. Like, if it's the end, I'm going to live that. And she was taking humor in a situation that was otherwise, pretty grim from the way we look at life in general. And I remember that a lot throughout my life when I'm in different circumstances, that my mom took that moment, that very, we always say, right, if it's not going to kill you, it's no big deal. Well, this was it. This was the big deal.
Right.
And so I think that echoes what you're saying, is that we want to be present in every single second that we have, or we're wasting it. And it's hard when things are hard. I don't know about you. I've struggled with anxiety and depression most of my life. When things are hard, you're like, I don't want to feel like this. I just want it to be easy. But if we can try to lean into, there's something on the other side of this that's going to make this so clear as to how it shaped me, and then pour it into, as you do, into an outlet like your music, it drives other people to feelingness that they wouldn't otherwise feel. People in your audience are able to feel in a way they wouldn't have otherwise feel, because they're getting it from you, from your journey.
Exactly. That's such a powerful story. And it's those moments where where everything is sort of dark and bad that I want my music to be heard, and I think that's why that's continues to be the place that I make my music for. Because I used to have this, when I was growing up and starting to realize, like, hey, the world is actually a pretty shitty place. Like, there's a lot of like bad happening. Like there's a lot of good, of course, too, but there's a lot of pain and suffering. And how am I going to make the world a better place? And in my mind, there were two ways to do it. I could actively work to make the world a better place with every action that I took. Such as being a doctor, for example, literally going to heal pain and suffering. Or I could work to make money and have influence, and then use what I have earned to make the world a better place. And to me, like, for a long time, music kind of fell in that second category, right? It's you can be influential and you can be, you know, a rock star, but and you can make money from that, and then you can use that money to do positive things in the world. And the more that I have created music and the more that I've gone down this journey, it has really taught me that, you know, music can be the thing that makes such a huge difference in somebody's life. And by channeling the emotions of being okay and the calm and finding peace within pain, um, if I can channel that into my music, and then people who need to hear that can hear that when they need to hear that, and find the peace that they get to find for themselves within whatever they are struggling with, that can then have such a
Mm.
powerful impact on people in a way that money and influence and all of that could never have ever had. Um, and it took me a while to kind of realize that. Um, but it is, you know, that is what I channel into my music. That's what I'm trying to do when I write songs and when I perform and produce everything out. It's create the music that can be listened to when you are in your deepest, darkest place, and it will not make the pain go away, but help to come to terms with the pain so that you can coexist with it and find a way to
Mm.
move forward for yourself. Um, and that's, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's like the mission statement, you know, is that's the life goal is, right, is making music with a purpose. um
Yeah.
that is my purpose, so
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's you're giving people also permission to feel their sadness and saying like I felt it, right?
yeah.
And there's something beyond it, or there's something in it. Maybe you don't even have to get beyond it. There's something in it. I think that's, you know, that's definitely apparent, and I think that's apparent that's your mission is apparent outside of even when you're performing, right? It's apparent when you're being yourself, when you're having your picture taken, when you're interacting with people.
Mhm.
So, is there, and maybe there isn't, is there anybody you'd really love to perform with that you think it would be like perform one of, it can either be perform their song or perform your song. I mean, in my mind, I'm already thinking like, oh, it'd be cool if he sang with this person. I love you singing by
Yeah.
yourself. There's no need for an additional person. But if you had that opportunity, is there anybody you'd love to have drop in on a song?
Oh man, I mean,
A
so
lot of
many
people.
people, and
Fair enough.
like but I think I would love to work with Jacob Collier. I don't know if you know who Jacob Collier is.
I
He's
don't. Okay.
very experimental with his music, and he's like modern day music genius, you know.
Okay.
He um he just, like, the way he thinks about music is just on another level compared to anybody else I've heard. And then I would also love to do, you know, some duets with people. I mean, I really like Lizzie McAlpine's music, who I also don't know if you know. Um, I just was listening to this woman, Freya Ridings, who's phenomenally talented. She has a great voice. Um, but I don't know if there is like one person really who like
Okay.
stands above the rest for me. I would say,
But you would love a collaboration with any of them.
yeah, you know, I'm down to collaborate. I think like what I really want to do right now is funny is find like a songwriter to collaborate with. And by collaborate with, I mean shadow and follow around and learn all their secrets. Because I
So
feel
you
like,
mean like somebody who's really like already in the industry,
yeah,
songwriter?
like a mentor type thing. Because I feel like
Yeah.
I am a good songwriter, but I think like the more that I write songs and the more that I sing and the more that I discover about the whole music industry, the more I realize that like there's so there's so many heights to hit. And it's like, you know, climbing a mountain, and then you reach the top and you realize that like the mountain was like a foothill to the bigger hill, which is a foothill to the taller mountain, which is a foothill to the even taller mountain. It's
Yeah.
just like realizing there's so much depth to the artistry and talent of human beings, and how
Absolutely.
can I continue to just go down and deeper and deeper and deeper. Because I got kind of a late start to things, you know, like I've been singing my whole life, but I didn't really start making music until, and like really focusing on making music and well, I focusing on making music in mid 2022 and starting writing songs really in 2020 after the pandemic started. Um, and it's just like there's so much to do, and it's like I just want to do all of it. So, but I would,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I feel you. I feel you. I'm a lot later in life, and I think that too. But then I think, like we tend to think like, oh, what if I could have done sooner? But then I'm like, okay, but I did other things that have contributed to this. So
right,
like I try to like the same thing we're talking about with music. Like, okay, well, I would be in a different place now, and maybe I wouldn't have had the same discoveries. So, and I think like the exploration, like what you're talking about, like there's some songs that I've written that I'm like, I'm not the person to sing this. And it's not because like I don't think that I'm good enough. I'm like, it's just like I'm like, this is a song for somebody else. Like when you're talking about, connecting with songwriters, because it's true. Because I'm like, I know that would be great in somebody's hands, but I don't even know how you get it in somebody's hands.
sure.
So some of it just lives as poetry because I'm like, that's where it's gonna stay. But I like that you're saying you've got that idea, that notion of wanting to reach out to other people and connect with them and feed into each other's gifts, right? Because like even if you're contributing to somebody else's song, right? Whether even if you have no part in it, but you're feeding into them the conversation, you're then part of a song that's going to be out in the world that's going to influence people.
Exactly.
And that's just cool no matter what, right? It's the same thing as
Yeah.
like I think with these live chats, like one of the things that I've really ended up enjoying is they'll go on YouTube, and in YouTube you can see analytics, and so like you see that people all over the world, and I mean I'll probably never have conversations with many of these, if not any of these people, right? But like
Yeah.
they're gonna hear something and they're gonna be influenced by it in some way. Like today, somebody might have heard this conversation and been like, I'm gonna pull out the notebook I have and I'm gonna like learn this guitar and I'm gonna do it because they're hearing your story. Like that to me is the bigger picture of all the different ways that we can use our gifts, is that we can inspire other people. So you help people feel, experience, and also live into their passion.
Absolutely. That's another thing that I think is very important to me is inspiring others, lifting up others, like especially with music. There's so much hesitancy around like I'm not good enough. Like I
Mm-hmm.
used to think like me personally that like music was not a possibility for me. Like I just didn't think that I was like one of the specially talented people, like one of those special talents that was good enough to make it as a musician. And it took me years to figure that out. Like um, literally years to figure out that I might even be remotely talented enough to actually make a go of it. Um, and so if this conversation gets one person to make music, just to even just for fun, mission accomplished. I think like
Exactly.
yeah, there's so much out there today as well that makes making music so much easier than it was 20 years
Absolutely.
ago. So
Absolutely.
it's the
Yeah,
right
you
idea.
can become yeah, you can get yourself seen by people, and so even if you're not necessarily hitting the, top radio station Billboard chart, you're getting in front of the audiences in other ways because people are consuming music. I mean, it's interesting. My daughter will come to me with a musician, and I'm like, I haven't heard of this person before, and I'm not listening to mainstream radio all the time anyway. But
Sure.
and she'll say, yeah, they're not even on there yet. And then like a year will go by, and all of a sudden they're in there. So I love watching the way that so many musicians are getting a chance to really make it. Noah Kahan's an example, right? Of like it's just right. So I think that that's incredible, and it's incredible to know that like that that's a path that could be before you. I could see that for you. I could see that for you because I think that you've got the passion and commitment to it, but also that you care very much about your music. It's not about how much money you can make, it's how much message you can share. And so
Right.
that's different.
Right.
That differentiates people. So I love that. Before, because I want to make sure, go ahead, you were going to say something. I want to cut you off.
No, I mean, there are plenty of ways to make money. Music is like not the easy one to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also there are different levels of success, right? I do want to spread my message as far and as wide as it can, but financially, I think like my goal financially, because I've set goals for myself. 26 years from now, where do I want to be? The only financial goal I have really set for me is financially able to support a family, and if I can do that, like I will be happy because
Right.
would it be great to make a lot of money and be able to use that money for myself and for others and you know whatever else? Like, yeah, absolutely. But like the most important thing is to make the great music and to share the great music and to find someone to spend my life with. So
Aw.
that's like what's really important to me. Yeah,
Somebody at one of these shows is going to come up to you. I just have a feeling they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, who is this person?"
right. They'll
So
change my brand. It'll go from sad love songs to happy love songs. So,
I will laugh if one day I'm on my social media feed and there's Luca like dancing around the stage. I
yeah,
mean, I could see that because you could do that too, right? I mean, I think your
for
music,
sure.
like I think even some of the songs you have written already, if you changed the tempo or changed like added a particular instrument or the orchestration a tiny little bit, like
Yeah,
they could easily become like almost like punk ska songs, right? Like
sure.
so it's literally just the how it gets
And
delivered.
yeah, I mean Noah Kahan is a great example because if you actually listen to the lyrics of Noah Kahan, it's like that is a sad man who has dealt with a lot of shit, and he is
Yeah.
constantly writing about that. But he is writing the most fun, catchy songs that you can dance to, while writing about like the most emo stuff. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
actually did inspire, like Noah Kahan did inspire a song of mine that I'll be starting to work on soon, and it's a similar thing. It's like super up tempo, it's super fun,
Nice.
and it is super emo. So,
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
I love it. My daughter got me totally into him. She first had started before he really I mean he was starting to make become more
right,
known. She had started listening to him and then, she stayed with him and now of course he's huge. And
yeah,
so we went to see it was her first like out like concert. Like we had been to some smaller concerts, but like big
nice.
concert. And yeah, I mean, I felt for me as a parent, the bonding experience that we had because as soon as like we were going to this concert, I was learning more and more of his music because we had it playing a lot. So like belting out songs standing next to her was like a bonding experience as we're talking about, right? It was just like, oh my gosh, we're
Absolutely.
feeling these emotions and we understand. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love the thought of people doing that with you someday. I hope that people check out your music. So tell everybody where's the best way to find you on wherever, social media, however is the best way.
Yeah, so Instagram is the hub for my happenings. It's at flowing song, flowing like flowing water, song like song. I probably should have typed my last name into the little box down at the bottom of the screen. But Luca Diadul, Diadul is how you spell my last name. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all the places to listen to the music. Um, and yeah, give me a follow, shoot me a DM. Would be happy to chat with anybody, and I really hope the music just is able to connect with people because that's really why I make it. So
Yeah, my 16-year-old daughter gave it thumbs up. So,
love it.
and she's a discerning musical person. She's got a very wide taste of music, but she's like she will not. She's one of those people that like will give somebody a little bit of a chance, but she's like music's so important to her that she's like if I'm not feeling something, I'm not. It's not going to take up space on my playlist because like I need to be able to.
Yeah,
But yeah, and I really appreciate you taking time. This was fantastic. I was excited. Yeah, the guitar is significantly there for me. It's a constant reminder to me, and also easy access means that I can grab it and play and to have my kind of meditation moments with my guitar. I always say I don't want to form emotional attachments with things because things are things and they're material and they're fleeting and we really need to be very present. But like I come pretty close to having an emotional attachment with that guitar, and have gotten
yeah,
other guitars, but that one will always be
be
very
cool.
special to me. So I know that you get that and you get the
Absolutely.
reason that it
Hey,
it
you are
has
not
its
the
own.
only person who has spent a night with the guitar next to them in bed. So
Have
yeah.
you?
I have. It was most of the time it's because I just want to play as like when I'm tired at night because I haven't had a
Right.
chance, and then I like put it down and then I get too tired and fall asleep before me. Usually I try to move it because I'm worried I'm gonna roll over and hit it or something. But
Yeah.
I've done it once
Yeah.
before, so
Yeah, yeah, and it does. And you don't know when inspiration. I have a little backpacker guitar I keep easily accessible too, in case I want to like, even when I'm writing poetry, sometimes like I like to just do a couple chords. I am not super, I don't want to say not talented. Feel like you could be not talented and not know a lot of chords. I don't know a lot of chords. Some of the things I just can't. Like I try to do it and like my fingers aren't doing that.
Yeah.
But I love it nonetheless. I hope people follow you, and I also would like, so one parting message you would like to leave with listeners. Don't overthink it. Doesn't have to be. It could be about your entire life, music, anything you want. What is a message that you'd like to leave with everybody with today?
I think just being gratitude, thank you so much for having me, Deb. If people listen to my music as a result of this conversation, it's thanks to you. I mean, of course, I do the work to put the music out there, but to reach the people, it's because of people like you that I am able to spread my music and spread my message and make people's lives better. So being gratitude and just help one person every day and just love people, and yeah,
Excellent.
that's what I've
Yeah.
got. So
Awesome. I love it. I think that your music speaks to that, your pictures, your presence, and certainly local folks who could get out to see you in person. I know that you also do, you have done like you did a thing in New York, so you do travel a bit. So hopefully some people will be able to get to see you in person, but at the very least, listen to your music online. It's so easy to get to right now. You provide those links and click on it. So thank you again, and thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. Thank you for everyone that has watched this, whether in person or after the fact. We're very grateful to you. And we hope everybody goes out there and sings the song of their life, right?
exactly, sings the song of their life.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.